No matter how beautiful and empowering home birth is portrayed here, I know that the real question that people who decide to deliver, what if something goes wrong? For years I've been describing home birth, and the most common reply is, but what if something goes wrong? My answer to them is, what is that something that can go wrong? And they usually don't know. So I've spent years researching all the medical literature that is published in medical journals, and I have identified the 5 things that answer that question, the 5 what-ifs that can happen to a full-term woman, because only certain women are suitable for a home birth. That is full-term, after 37 weeks, with 1 fetus in a head-down position, with no medical diseases, no high blood pressure, no diabetes. For those women, which is the massive majority of women in Israel, it's 90% of women, there are 5 things that could go wrong in birth. The first is amniotic fluid embolism. I say that first because it's the scariest. A woman could die. In the medical literature published to date, there has never been a single case documented of a woman who had an amniotic fluid embolism who was attended with a midwife at a home birth. Amniotic fluid embolism is when an embolism of amniotic fluid enters the woman's circulation and she dies from it. It's associated with induction at hospital birth and cesarean section. Induction has unnaturally strong contractions which would cause amniotic fluid to enter the system, or fundal pressure, things that happen in hospital. The next thing is placental abruption, which can be complete or partial separation of the placenta from the uterus. If the placenta completely separates suddenly from the uterus, then the baby's dead in 8 minutes because it's no longer getting any oxygen. That has never been documented to happen at a planned, attended home birth, probably because those women usually have high blood pressure or medical problems that would cause it. It can happen in a car accident also. A partial abruption, the woman can continue for weeks to months after the partial abruption and have a normal delivery at term. So it's not a problem. Cord prolapse is when the cord separates from the... Cord prolapse is when the cord comes in front of the head and is pressured by the head so the baby no longer gets oxygen. In this case, the baby could die. However, at a home birth, where if it happened, the midwife is there to push the baby's head up. This is actually the scariest thing for the midwife. It could happen at a home birth. It could happen at a hospital birth. It's much more likely to happen at a hospital birth because 50% of cord prolapses occur in the case of a premature baby or a breech baby where there's room for the cord to come down. So it's a very, very, very rare thing at a planned, attended home birth. Very scary. Is it a reason to have a hospital birth? Not really, because of how rare it is, and because even at a planned home birth, as long as you have a midwife there, she can put a warm, something warm and wet and push the baby's head up, so there isn't enough pressure for the baby to die. It is scary though, but very, very rare. Ruptured uterus is another thing that women are threatened with, but it never happens unless the woman has a scar in her uterus, which she would know, either from a previous cesarean or from previous surgery. Ruptured uterus could happen from too exuberant induction with too much Pitocin, and I've also seen it happen in hospital where a doctor took a bag of fluid for a woman who had just been given an epidural. Her blood pressure drops quickly. The fluid had Pitocin in it. He didn't realize it. He hangs it. It ruptures the woman's uterus. The woman thinks that the hospital saved her life, but really they caused the rupture by putting a bag of Pitocin by accident and not telling her. Fetal distress is the 5th and last and the biggest threat that women believe actually happens in hospital frequently. It doesn't happen at home birth. It certainly doesn't happen quickly. The midwife is there to monitor the baby's heartbeat, and in all the literature, it's very, very well documented now that the continuous monitoring with the monitor is not to the advantage of the woman. It does not prevent cerebral palsy. It has not lowered the cerebral palsy rate. It has not saved any babies from published research, and it appears to only be an advantage to the company that's selling the monitors, because it's not preventing fetal distress or picking up fetal distress. It's in fact maybe causing fetal distress by causing distress to the mother when she's told, oh, the reading isn't very good, and there's very sophisticated naming like variable decelerations, which are usually meaningless but sound very, very scary to the woman. The woman's blood pressure goes up, her heartbeat goes up, the baby's heartbeat becomes non-reassuring, and then a C-section occurs because of the continuous monitoring. And Naomi's experienced some of these experiences in hospital, minor, because she's never had a cesarean, but been threatened. For example, Naomi's babies are generally 5 kilo, which is alone a reason that doctors use to justify a cesarean, but is not a problem in her case.
And we also want to emphasize that just because we're advocating a natural home births doesn't mean that we're against hospitals. And to prove that point, we did have a midwife who told us we needed to go to hospital with our twins when she discovered we were carrying twins. And we did. We followed her advice and went in. And what we found in our experience in hospital was that we had put certain things in writing that we didn't want to happen, certain injections and certain preventative measures we said we did not want. And even though we told them verbally and in writing, these procedures were still done without our consent. And that was very distressing at the time. And it was ironic, I went into hospital because I was told this would be the safe place to have your babies. And when the first of my twin daughters was born, no one was in the room, and I delivered her myself, unassisted. And I remember thinking, why did I bother going to all this trouble to have hospital birth? Because I ended up doing it myself.
Even though you told the midwife, I'm about to deliver, and she ignored what you said.
And left the room. And so our hospital experience, while it was very minor, the things that we encountered were probably not very big deals when compared to other horror stories you hear. Still, there was enough things that went, that we realized the philosophy of the staff of the hospital, and the fact that they're overworked and understaffed, and that you don't get the individualized care that you would at home. It was enough for us to really look into having home births for the rest.